Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Menil Drawing Institute. My name is Mary Magsman. I'm the manager of public programs, and we're so thrilled to have you all here for tonight's artist talk with Gustavo Díaz. I want to thank the Cockrell Family Fund for their support of our artist series. Our next public program is an outdoor jazz performance presented by DeCamera. It is on October 26th from 3 to 4 p.m. If anyone needs restrooms, they are in the back. And I also ask you to silence your cell phones now. We will be recording tonight's talk, and it will be on our YouTube channel. And at the end of the talk tonight, if you can hold off your questions until the end, and at the end, Gustavo will answer your questions, and you may ask them in either Spanish or English. Tonight, we're fortunate to be joined by an esteemed group of people, each offering a perspective in the realm of art, curation, and conservation. First, I'd like to introduce Gustavo Díaz. He is an Argentinian-born artist whose work is featured in the current Menil Drawing Institute exhibition, Out of Thin Air, Emerging Forms. And he also has a solo show up right now, just around the corner from here at Sicardi, Ayers, and Bassino Gallery. Gustavo, his practice spans drawing, sculpture, and installation. He has a particular focus on complex systems, physics, and the way invisible forces shape our world. His intricate drawings explore the intersection of chaos and order. He invites viewers to engage with invisible systems that govern the natural and man-made spaces. He has exhibited widely, both nationally and internationally, and his work consistently challenges the traditional notions of form and materiality. Next, we have Kirsten Marples. She is the assistant curator at the Menil Drawing Institute and the curator of the exhibition Out of Thin Air, Emerging Forms, which includes Gustavo's work. And we have extended the gallery hours tonight, too. If you want to come in and see Gustavo's work after the talk, you're welcome to. It'll be open until 8:20. The exhibition is on view until January 26th. We also have Jan Burandt, the Menil's conservator of works of art on paper. Jan's work ensures that these groundbreaking artworks are preserved and maintained for future audiences, which is a challenging job. And we're also fortunate to have with us tonight Areli Navarro Magallón, who is a Houston-based independent curator, and she will be assisting with translation. Please join me in welcoming Gustavo, Kirsten, Jan, and Areli for our artist talk.
Thank you everyone so much for joining us tonight for this program connected to the exhibition Out of Thin Air, Emerging Forms. And thank you, Gustavo, for being here and for sharing your work with us. I'd like to share just a few words about the exhibition. It's one of two shows that we have on view currently here in the galleries at the Menil Drawing Institute. And both displays are drawn from the Menil's own collection. You'll see work by 13 artists, including Gustavo. And the theme of the show is really a visual one, which I've called Emerging Forms. And with this phrase, I wanted to convey the sense that the drawings on view in the show are really open and evocative, and that they feature these forms that are kind of suspended, almost hovering on the sheets of paper. They kind of feel as if they could morph or change or disperse even at any moment. They're kind of like they are still in this perpetual process of becoming, if you will. And if you haven't had a chance to see the show yet, please stick around after the talk. What we've planned for tonight is to essentially contextualize Gustavo's drawing that's on view within his broader artistic practice. We're going to discuss some of the concepts behind, or rather within the drawing, and the materiality of the drawing itself. So with that, shall we dive right in? Gustavo, tell us a little bit about how you understand drawing.
First, I would like to say thank you. The places are special for many reasons, for their architecture, history, legacy, but even more for the people who make that is possible. I would like to say thank you, the people of that beautiful, special place to me, the Menil Drawing Institute. My soul is grateful to be part of that exhibition, this exhibition. Everything in my existence is complex and demanding. I try that this conversation, I hope this conversation is not so too. But at the same time, this is our first slide. When I think in drawing, a lot of ideas appear and combine in a strange, beautiful, and complex way to me. This slide is a map, but it's a complex map. It's no linear map. It's like a rhizome, but at the same time, it's not a rhizome. This map, this is a map that is built in a search. This is my map only for today. Tomorrow will be different, obviously more complex. When I was young, I have a lot of answers to my question. Today, I have the same question, and my answer disappeared. This is important because I don't sure that I'm losing myself or I found it myself. But I'm sure that it's time to me to uncertainties. This map is a sample that my way to think about the drawing. I think the drawing in different way. The sound, the invisible drawing, the no visible reality is important to me. One exercise that I do is nice to me. It's like my routine exercise is to choose one cell and looking at the information around the cells of the map and start a walk inside the map and try to define my thought about the drawing.
If I can just point out a few of my favorites of these cells, drawing is asking. Drawing is curiosity. It's searching and researching. It's an innermost ritual. Drawing is a vision of what is not yet visible. I think that connects really well with the exhibition. So I would suspect that not everyone here is terribly familiar with your work, Gustavo. So to get us started, I wondered if you could just share a little bit about some of your kind of guiding artistic principles.
This is the second step. Nothing is what it seems to be. My goal for today, for this conversation, my first challenge is to invite you to go to the beautiful universe of complexity. Trying to share the non-visual reality behind the visual reality. Go far away to the phenomenological reality of the object, far away for the phenomenology. Go to the deeper level of the abstract concept. I try to get the concept in the more abstract level that I can to think. This is my limit, myself, but I try to share the abstract idea behind my work. But maybe it's nice that you remember the map all the time. The 4 books that, my 4 books, I took 8 years ago 4 books, the Jorge Luis Borges books. I came to Houston to start a new life with my family, my wife and my little son. And at that moment, something changed in myself. I started a new research about the drawing. The books, my 4 books, Jorge Luis Borges' books, it's not a book. It's like a hypothetical universe. It's all question, sequence of question, and poetic idea to understand the universe and the simple thing of the life. I would like to introduce 4 ideas that is important to me. First, the scale of the small. I'm interested in the scale of the small thing, the small behavior of the hand, the scale of the small is the first idea. The second is the material. I work on paper. This is a philosophical choice. I work on paper. The third is the work of the hand. I'm interested in the work of my hand. And finally is the complexity of the concept. This is 4 dimensions that I work. It is important to understand my work. I try to push the boundary of these 4 dimensions every day. I try to push the limit, the scale, the paper, the work of the hand, and the idea of the complexity.
And so I thought to continue getting us started, getting us acquainted with your work, you could share a few examples of your work that preceded the drawing here that's at the Menil. Mm-hmm. And one of those pieces is a sound and paper installation called Architecture of Murmurs, and it's from 2019. Mm-hmm. Would you tell us a little bit about this piece?
Yes, of course. This is a small installation on paper and sound called Architecture of Murmur. I told the idea behind the work and then the process. I designed 36 discs, working the idea of Italo Calvino, the Invisible Cities, and I add one special text of Jorge Luis Borges on rigor on science. I took these 2 ideas and I designed 36 maps, and I add in information about microbiology and this map. I meant that mix different level of information. Over the disc on paper, I built small 3-dimensional pieces with paper. And on the floor, I put 36 speakers with a piece of work of sound that I designed. The idea of the idea of the sound, I work with 2 important concepts to me, and these 2 important concepts you can see at the drawing at the exhibition. The first concept is about the coherent dissipative structure. This is the simple way to understand is Ilya Prigozhin, Nobel Prize in 1977, to explain how is the behavior of the complex system through the chaos moment. He called this behavior coherent dissipative structure. Prigozhin replaced the idea of the order for the idea of momentary stability. No more order, but yes, momentary stability in a special circumstance. I work the idea of Prigozhin in all my drawing too. Another idea important in my work is fossil logic. I try to explain. Fossil logic is different to the binary logic. Binary logic is 1 or 0, yes or not, true or false. Fossil logic is a part of the logic, it's math, but try to design a model of uncertainty, no more false or true. Different multiple degrees of true between false or true. I love the idea of multiple degrees of true. To me, it's like a philosophical concept. It's math, but to me, it's philosophical concept. Mm-hmm. The fuzzy logic replaced the idea of certainty for uncertainty, replaced the idea of reasoning for approximate reasoning. I love approximate reasoning. My life is approximate reasoning. I try to understand, but I approximate, no more that. I need fuzzy logic to understand myself. I design a work sound mixing the chaos theory plus fuzzy logic. And I design a work using floating dissonance.
Can you tell us a little bit more about how you made this piece?
Yes, you can see this on paper and the speaker on the floor, and this is the idea. The sound is a drawing to me. The sound and the wallpaper is the same to me. Change the technique, but the concept, I design the sound like a drawing. It's the same way.
And what about the shadows on the floor?
I love the shadows. Sometimes I love the shadows, sometimes no. In this case, I love the shadows, but in my drawing, no, because the shadow is too much grotesque.
It's too grotesque.
The line is more subtle than the shadow, and the shadow is the biggest scale to my drawing. I think a lot about the shadows. In this case, it's an installation that is nice.
Mm-hmm. And would these discs move at all in space, or were they?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You can move around.
The viewer could move around them, but would the discs themselves
Yes.
move too?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
All right, and so the kind of structures you've created on top of these discs were made of cut paper, is that correct?
Yes.
And cut paper is a medium you've worked with for a long time, and it's something you've not only integrated into these installations, but it's also something you've created independent pieces with. So you offered to speak to this work as well, as another work that kind of preceded the Menil's drawing. Would you tell us about this one?
Yes, of course. Part of my work is cut paper. I work with machine, but my technique is like a hybrid technique. It's a balance between technology and craft process. I have my limit to the technology. My balance is 60% craft process, 40% machine or technology, no more that. This is this 40% is enough. I am old school artist. I love to work all day, each hour, and I need my hand working. I think that I be clear my concept working with my hand. But for this case, I work with my laser cut. I design on the computer, but I don't use any software to design. I draw at the computer like the same process that I draw with pencil, but at the computer. Then I cut the work with my machine, and I cut by hand too. This is my balance again. And then I remember that I draw with pencil color, and this work is important because it's the last work that I cut with my machine, and something changed in myself. When I was drawing, I felt that if I need to go deeper to my research, I need to turn off my computer and work with pencil. This work is important for many reasons to me, but one of the reasons is the last work that I cut 4 years ago. Then the last year I returned my machine, but in different way. But when I finished this work, I felt that it's time to silence and pencil. The new step in my research started with pencil, only with pencil.
Can you tell us just briefly, when you said you cut by hand as well, what do you mean by that? Just for the people who aren't familiar with these, who haven't seen them, you cut these by using a laser first, and then you also go in by hand. And so I just want people to have an appreciation for exactly the intensity, the manual intensity that takes.
Yes, the art need time. This is nice. This is nice to me. The art need time. The concept need time. The work need time. I use the technology to cut the paper, but then I don't cut all the thickness. Sorry.
Yeah, he doesn't cut through the entire thickness of the paper.
With the machine, when I finish to cut with the machine and turn, giro el papel.
He turns the side over to the verso side of the paper.
Yes, and I cut by hand another size of the paper. Each design is different, and each design has a different balance between technology and my hand. Each work is special, and I need to think the special paper, I need to think the design, the thickness of the line. I work in different way in each work.
Are you using like a tiny scalpel? Or
yes,
something
yes,
like that? Okay.
yes. I leave or a pencil in my hand or a scalpel, yes.
All right, so that brings us to the drawing that was acquired by the Menil that is on view in Out of Thin Air, Emerging Forms. The drawing's titled Imaginary Flight Patterns 5, and it's from 2021. And we can actually see it in this image of your studio here. Let me make sure that I can do this right here. And it's shown here alongside some of the other drawings that were made as kind of part of this same series. And so you've generously shared a kind of short clip of you actually at work. So I'm gonna play that. Okay?
I don't sure, but it's late.
Really strike me in this video. Music seems to have a real presence with you as you work. Also, the very physical act of drawing. You're working on such a large scale, flat on a table, and you're bent over this drawing. It's a very physical, bodily act. How careful you are making adjustments, additions with pencil, but also, erasure here and there?
Yes, when I finish each drawing, I like to spend time for the detail, 10 days, 15 days, only for the details that detail is almost impossible to see. But to me, I adding time, adding invitation to the viewer to spend time to discover the secret of the work, to discover another closer dimension. It's like un diálogo cercano, íntimo con el observador.
To create a close, intimate dialogue with the viewer.
The time of the detail is nice time to me because the work is ready. The fight with the work is ready. I survive at the drawing, and it's different spirit to the details. I work on table in horizontal position all time. When I finish each drawing, I put in vertical position. You can see the work in vertical position because the work is ready, and I need to think about that for two weeks, thinking in the detail, and everything is okay, or if I can add time. In this case, the video, I don't like the video, and don't like the photos of myself, and this is only 2 or 3 images that I conserve about my drawings. But I was working in the adjust of the thickness of the line. I work with only 2 pencils, and I work very close, but it's only the adjust the thickness of the lines.
And so these drawings were part of an exhibition of your work, which you titled Confronting Silence. Mm-hmm. Would you tell us a little bit about the kind of origins of this body of work?
Of course. The silence is important to me. I think in silence the last 20 years. I told you that I need time to think. But in this special moment, that special moment was post-pandemic, this pandemic time, and I need to think the silence in very deep way, very philosophical way to think the silence. I have my research in time, I have my research in silence. The silence is important to me. When I choose, for example, a dot to draw, I like the dot because it's very close to the silence, simbológicamente hablando.
Symbolically speaking.
The dot is close to the silence too. I think a silence a lot in different way. And my third exhibition at the gallery, I call Confronting Silence. It was only pencil drawing.
And so you mentioned, research just now, and research is really central to your work. Mm-hmm. As you develop a concept, as I understand it, you read widely and you think really deeply and intensively. You cast a really wide net, identifying connections across disciplines. Mm-hmm. And so I wondered if you could tell us a little bit more about this research process. And what are some of the key ideas that interested you as you began working on this series of drawings?
Okay. This is another map to me. When I was thinking in my new series of drawing, Confronting Silence, the first step in my work is to make a semantic constellation. This is my semantic constellation for my third exhibition, only with pencil. At my semantic constellation, I work different level of information. In the particular drawing at the exhibition, I choose only 8 semantic fields to explain the ideas behind the drawings. But the slide that you can see is all the full semantic constellation.
And so each kind of sheet of these semantic constellations is kind of a field of inquiry almost. It's a kind of question that you're posing. Is that right?
Yes. All is about the question, but I can explain each. But I prefer to explain a specific semantic field for the drawing. But all is about it's like a system of questions. The first, to me, the more important is the question. One important science to me wrote sometime. Knowing even before eating. I love the idea. All is about the looking for the ideas, looking for the complexity, the behavior of complex universe of the concept. And the semantic constellation is my way to think. When I think in silence, when I think in fly pattern of the verb, I think in this way. the matrix of information working together.
So we can take a look at a couple of these.
Yes, we can choose 8 semantic fields that tell the idea behind the drawing. The universe loves Leonardo. Me too. I start with Leonardo. I love his drawing, his way to think, to discover, to curiosity, and I love the fly of bird. At the same time, I love the ideas of mechanical flight. I remember that at that moment, around 3 years ago, I saw the Leonardo's drawing, and at that moment I was listening special pieces of sound from Stockhausen called a quarter. It's a quarter for a string quarter plus 4 helicopter. This is a crazy and beautiful piece of work or sound, and the structure of this work is really beautiful, complex. Each music go in each helicopter and play the quarter on the air. This is a beautiful. The structure is beautiful of that work. I mix the drawing Leonardo with the idea of Stockhausen, and then I love the story of Oliver Messiaen. The second image, yes, yes, is about the story of Oliver Messiaen. Oliver Messiaen was an important composer, French composer, and his life was really beautiful and important for another composer, the big composer. But he was a prisoner in the concentration camp in the Second War, and at that moment in the concentration camp, he wrote incredible pieces of sound called A Quarter for the End of Time. Deep, tragic, dramatic, and beautiful, and powerful. And he played at the first time in the concentration camp with another 3 musicians. The 4 musicians survived at that situation. I like to think that they are safe. And 17 years after that situation, he wrote special pieces, important pieces to me called Catalogue of Bear. It's a piece for piano who has 13 small pieces for piano with different son of bear. I studied this work, and I used the idea of the structure of each piece of 13 works inside the catalog of bear, and I work with this structure in my drawing. These two images is about the Japanese garden. I took 2 important composers to me, John Cage. My drawing is in front of 3 beautiful works of John Cage. I love this situation. It's an honor to me because it's my old friend. John Cage wrote a beautiful piece of sound called Ryoanshi. Ryoanshi is a long story, but he went 3 times to Japan, and it's a Japanese garden, very important, called Ryoanshi. John Cage was at the Ryoanshi and took the idea of the symbolism of the space and designed a beautiful work of sound called Ryoanshi. Then John Cage made a beautiful series of drawings about Ryoanshi. I love the idea of the drawing like a Japanese garden, like a garden. Another image is about the Toru Takemitsu, is another composer, Japanese composer, and he's beautiful to me because he lived in between 2 different worlds, East and West. And music has a lot of elements of nature that I use the idea of element of nature with my pencil. I love neuroscience too, and the universe loved Santiago Ramón y Cajal. He was a crazy and beautiful scientific. He was an artist too. His drawings are beautiful, and I love the idea when someone tries to drawing the unknown. This is double value.
Double value?
Yes, it's because
Doubly valuable.
he tried to draw in the unknown universe, the unknown, the structure of the sistema nervioso.
The nervous system.
Nervous system. Thank you. And for another hand, I love the trajectory, complex trajectory. I study trajectory, chaotic trajectory, network, and neural trajectory too. At the drawing exhibit here is very clear the idea of trajectory and complex trajectory. And in a special part of the drawing, I use the neuroscience idea. And finally, first, the beautiful noise. And second, walking on the wire. I explain. I love the noise in two different dimensions. One dimension is noise like a sound aspect, noise. But another aspect that I'm interested in the noise is the random variation of complexity, of information, of fuzzy logic. I explained fuzzy logic, the idea of noise like a random variation of complexity. At the drawing, I use the noise, the top of the drawing. I design a shape, open shape. This is a secret, no more secret, but it's a secret homage to Russolo, Luigi Russolo. Luigi Russolo was a beautiful artist, a futurist, Italian futurist. He wrote for the first time the first book about the noise. And he designed a crazy, beautiful instrument, noise-generating instruments. He called internal rumori. I like so much the idea of Luigi Russolo because he's the first person, again, to try to understand the noise. And the another hand, at the drawing, I use the idea of the noise in a lot of details. Then we can talk about that. And finally, the walking on the wire. This is another special and a little bit crazy image because I try to share how I work, how I draw, how I think about the drawing. I put the story of Philippe Petit. He walked between the Twin Towers in 1971. And I put in one hand Keith Jarrett and another hand Glenn Gould. Keith Jarrett is real time, is a spontaneous process, improvisation. And Glenn Gould, the last 18 years, he spent his the last 18 years on the studio, make edition of the sound. This is two different ways to think to me, and I use two different entities to draw, the real time and edition. And I walking in between two very different ideas about the concept, about the space, real time and edition.
And so you've selected a short video for us to listen to and watch of Glenn Gould playing. Do you want to introduce it at all, or should we just play it?
No.
Okay.
Sometimes the most powerful moment in music doesn't need sound to express itself. This is a beautiful sample about that. To me, it's incredibly drawing. It's incredibly drawing from Glenn Gould, and it's a beautiful idea, the drawing of Glenn Gould in a special place, the Drawing Institute.
Okay, so here is the drawing we've been working towards, Imaginary Flight Patterns 5 from 2021. That's now on view in our galleries here. And for those of you who haven't seen it in person yet, trust me, you absolutely must, so please stick around afterwards and have some time with it. It's really incredible. And Gustavo, I just wanted to say how much I've really enjoyed sharing it with people so far, with visitors in the galleries. People are honestly astonished. They are awestruck, unable to comprehend that you actually created this, that it's a drawing, that it's graphite on paper. It's a work that is so striking from afar, this very elegant sort of crescent shape that you've created as this, as the composition from afar. And then when you approach the drawing, it really comes to life. And so I will just share one detail image here to get to, for anybody who hasn't seen it up close yet. I mean, this is the degree of detail he's able to achieve, which is absolutely astonishing. And Jan is going to share more details, so I will only share one right now. But I'm always amazed whenever I return to the drawing, the variety of marks that you're making. There's these, the most subtle dots to these almost seemingly gestural marks that I know are highly intentional as well. And with that, you also brought in one of the related drawings, the one that came before. Would you speak to this work, how it's different? It has the same incredible variety of mark making, but also these beautiful passages of density. Tell us a little about this.
Okay. This drawing is the same time at the drawing exhibit here. I work the same months. I finish after, but I start together. And to me, work very nice together because it's two different ideas of the space. In the drawing part of the exhibition here, I use the idea of the path and a lot of idea of trajectory, but the structure is like a path. And in this drawing, I use the idea of the consistent nuclear core, consistent core, and maybe the important idea is the noise around the core. This is my intention is design a core, open system with different situation around the open system, and then I work a lot the idea of noise around the core. It's very different because the drawing here is a path and there is a core. The behavior, the noise is very different. And including, I thought the cosmic noise in this drawing. This drawing has a lot of information in the noise, about noise in very different way. And another secret, inside the noise, I design two flock of birds inside the noise, like a metaphor of life. My work has a lot of secret. It's difficult to see with the photos, but the noise is an important idea of this work.
So I think now we'll take just a moment to turn to your studio and to the making and materiality of the drawing itself. And so I'm going to ask you to walk us through these next few slides with Jan.
This slide is my first studio 8 years ago when I need you. But when I arrived to live here and when with my know the Houston, I have two challenges. How is possible to get the work on the Menil, and another is how is possible to live in the Rothko Chapel. We rented the house at the back of the Rothko Chapel for 2 years, and we had a beautiful moment because this photo is my first studio in Houston, 2 blocks from here. I remember that the director of Rothko Chapel said, Gustavo, we have a new project to build another space. We need to move. Please, David, give me 6 months more. It was a beautiful time for us, our first studio in Houston. This is my second studio 5 years ago. You can see the way that I put my different object, paper, machine, and computer. I like the idea of intertextuality. Intertextuality is okay?
Intertextuality. Mm-hmm.
When I put 10 books together, I can see the dialogue between the 10 books. I can see the complexity around the 10 books. This is the way that I think. In my studio is the same. I think my studio like a big, huge semantic constellation. This is my studio, very, very small studio in New York, 400 square feet. The table, the bed, and a short place to move between table and bed. And finally, this is my studio in Kingwood. When we live with my family, is the house, but I prepare part of the house to like my studio. I work and I live there from the last 4 years. Okay. I like to make lists. I make lists for everything, all time. And one list is a small daily action. It's like a human algorithm to me. It's a sequence, it's a tree. It's like a binary logic, it's a tree. I take note the different action that I need to do each day, to think each day, to connect it, to keep in focus with the human part of the life, to keep focus in different aspects of the nature. This is my secret activities every day. I work a lot with my pencil or with my machine or with my books. But at the same time, I make a short, small action every day.
Some of these really resonate with me, I must say. Disarrange some books, I definitely do that every day. But the idea of staying close to the drawing table, that the farthest you ever are away is an arm's length. This idea of just holding a pencil and then putting it to paper and then listening to the sound that it makes when you touch different papers, how that sound changes. I have a sense that you identify with this idea as well, Jane.
I very much identify with the sound of paper. Yeah. I think that paper is, we think of drawing, we think of paper, we think of a medium on paper usually, and paper is really has a lot of, there's an understated complexity to it. It seems, people call it a two-dimensional material, but it's really three-dimensional, and the fibers and how they're connected to one another, what's in between them, how they're compressed, what sort of surface you have. You can have a rough paper that your pencil will just touch the tops of the fibers, or you can have a very compacted, smooth paper that allows you to have very precise control of the marks, which is the sort of paper that you've chosen for this work. And I think that there's so much thinking that goes into the building of the work, but as a viewer, I think that the work demands a relationship that is also complex. You can use materials that can be read graphically from across the room and pretty well understood, but the way that you are using your graphite in such a nuanced range of application with this type paper, you really have to engage the drawing in different distances, as Kirsten was saying before, and I think of it as almost as if your drawings demand a dance with the viewer, demand the viewer to really get closer and closer to understand more and more, and then as you back away, there's a greater understanding of the whole, having been so close. And I've got to admit that I have a microscope and magnifying devices, so I do tend to love to get close to drawings. But when you understand these materials on a molecular level, you see, they behave differently. Charcoal behaves very differently than graphite, and we should look at some detail here. So would you like to talk a little bit about the paper and how you selected the paper that you use for these drawings?
Yes, of course. The paper of the drawing exhibit here is, the name is Lana Aquarel, it's 100% cotton. It's a very thick, grueso? Thick paper, is almost 640 pounds. And I like this paper because I can work on the surface of the paper, and at the same time I can go through the paper to get pressure, different pressure with different pencil, and I work. Necesito exagerar un poco para que se entienda.
He needs to hyperbolize in order to make it understood.
But it's possible to draw inside the paper with different pressure or with different pencil.
When you look at the points, the dark points there, it's actually the point of the pencil is pressed into and making impressions in that sheet, and the graphite has a tendency to reflect light. So because of the way you're looking at it, you get a little subtle shining that comes out of these different impressions in the paper, and yet some of the other marks are so subtle they're barely visible.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I use different pencil. I use mechanical pencil to move. For example, I use two different kind of dot, the vertical dot and the extended dot. To make it a vertical dot, I use a special pencil, and to design my dot with a little bit close to the small line, I use another pencil. I prepare the lid of the pencil in different way, depend if I need to draw the line or the dot or different dot. I use maybe 10 different kind of pencil for the drawing here. I use a lot of, many times I use a mechanical pencil 0.3, and I prepare the lid in a special angle to work on the surface of the paper. For example, I sand the 0.3 lid of the pencil to get 10% degree to work very, very flat the pencil, to move soft on the surface of the paper.
And when you talk about a pencil and we think about graphite, graphite, it's a whole range. Clay is mixed with graphite, and there are different hardnesses. So some pencils will be very, very black, and others you can barely see because they have so much clay mixed in.
Yes, in this special drawing, I use 6H to 2B. This is the range of the lid of the pencils. Very hard pencil, 6H, 4H, and HB, 2B, no more that. no soft and dark pencil.
And the nuanced control of all of that is really a beautiful thing to see in the drawing.
Thank you. I work on the table because I need to feel the weight of my body. I need to feel exactly the weight of my hand and the weight of the pencil, because I need to get control to the pressure of the pencil over the paper. I need to work in horizontal position all time, because I can feel exactly the weight of the body and pencil and the sound. Sometimes I'm losing my vision. I work a lot and me resisto a usar lentes.
I'm resistant to using glasses.
And sometimes I think that my hand know to draw. Sometimes the people say, I discovered, I don't see first time. Me too. Sometimes the drawing is difficult to see to me, but my hand know. This is my poetical idea. I'm losing my vision, and I replace for the poetical idea that my hand know to draw.
And that relationship of poetry and music, I think, with your drawings, that really resonates with me. And when you stand in front of it, I hope that you get enough alone time with it that you can really have that kind of relationship of approaching and removing yourself and experiencing it from a variety of standpoints.
Nice. 2 or 3 things about the details.
Sure.
Maybe we can, this image. I told you that I took 2 weeks only for the detail when the work is finished. It's finished, but it's not finished, because the best part is start with the details. And I have my... voy a hablar esta parte en español y nos van a ayudar con la traducción, porque son conceptos importantes.
I'm going to speak this part in Spanish, and I'm going to receive help with translation because they're important concepts.
Trabajo 3 dimensiones distintas de niveles. Una es el simbolismo.
I work in 3 different or 3 different conceptual levels. One of them is symbolic.
La otra es el pensamiento caligráfico.
The other one is calligraphic thought.
Y finalmente the scientific aspect.
And finally, scientific aspects.
3 different dimensions of thought through the details. For example, here you can see a lot of dots and small lines. To me, it's a concept about atmospheres.
Atmospheres.
Mm-hmm. In this special drawing, the idea is about the path, the way, and I use approximate patterns, not the geometrical patterns, because I'm not interested in the geometrical thought. I'm interested in the complex thought. I use the pattern, but I add atmósfera borrosa sobre el patrón.
He adds atmosphere over the pattern.
I use the idea of fuzzy logic over the patterns. I don't use clear pattern. I use approximate patterns, more uncertainty patterns. Then I add another level of complexity with the idea of atmospheres. This is the idea that I adding information, adding complexity, move to the uncertainty, go far away to the certainty.
I think that might be just a really beautiful place to end. And I want you all to have the chance to ask Gustavo questions. I could go on forever. So if anyone has a question, Tony is going to come around with a mic. Please just raise your hand. And as Mary mentioned, please feel welcome to ask your question in either English or Spanish. Are there any questions? Oh.
First of all, thank you so much. It's been just great learning more about your work. And so the little slide where it showed the video of you working, were those symbols or a drum set beneath the stairs where all the books were stacked?
I have a project about that. Yes, but I have a project about the sound and the drum set. Yes, yes. Mm-hmm. I like the experimental sound. I make it different. I have my research in sound, but my research in sound is very close to the idea of drawing. And I make intimate experimental tests for different sound, and this is the idea. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. This was really wonderful.
Thank you.
And the first time I saw your drawings here, I really thought I was seeing like music stacks unraveling. And you talked about your musical inspiration behind your works. And I'm curious, are you a musician yourself? Or could you talk a little bit more about your musical inspiration?
Okay. I am a curious man. I study music for 6 years, and I make my research in sound, but I don't feel that I'm a musician or composer. But I try to think in sound, in music every time, and I have my research, yes. Mm-hmm.
Are there other questions? Yes, there's some in the back behind you, Tony.
Thank you for the talk. It's been lovely hearing more about your work. I was lucky enough to see more of it over at Sicardi earlier today, including your cutout paper drawings. And I'm curious, there's a delicacy that's parallel in both types of drawing, the graphite and the cutout paper. But knowing the way that you developed the cutout drawings and then seeing the delicacy of these, I'm curious about the development of each. Like, do you make preliminary drawings of these larger graphite drawings, or do you only work on the piece of paper and allow it to develop as you go?
I start to work with my machine 1 year ago. I told that I turned off my machine for 4 years. I need to think only in pencil. Then 1 year ago, I returned to work with my machine, but in very different way. Now I draw over the cut paper a lot, and the design of the cut paper is closer to my drawing pencil more than my before research. Sometimes a specific concept I need a pencil to understand, to do, and sometimes specific concept is possible to work with my cut paper work. I have different research with two very different techniques. The process is very different, the relation to the paper is very, very different. It's impossible to me to draw on paper at the same week that I cut paper, because I need to change my chip. I'm another person working with another technique, really, because I need to feel the paper in different way. I need to cut the paper. I need my hand the weight of my hand is very different. My approach to the paper is different. I work different concept with different technique. Sometimes the concept go close one each to other, but really I need to change my chip working in two different techniques. It's the same with the sound. I need another chip I work like a folder inside. I took a folder and cut paper and took a folder and draw. I need to change the thought.
Very fascinating works you're producing. You mentioned Glenn Gould as a source of inspiration and a person to look to. Are you familiar with his radio essays?
Sorry.
Que el trabajo de Glenn Gould es muy fascinante y si conocen su trabajo de radio essays.
No.
There is an interesting synchronicity between your works and his radio essays. Everybody is very interested in Glenn Gould as a vessel for Bach.
Okay.
But he always wanted to be a composer, and he actually couldn't let himself become a composer until he worked with a recording engineer and created these radio essays. And they're actually all about solitude, and I see an affinity between your work and his radio essays. So check them out.
Okay. Thank you. It's beautiful thought.
We all will.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe one more question? Yeah.
Bueno, yo voy a hacer la pregunta en español. Me ilusionó muchísimo ver que repetía bastante, hablaba sobre Borges y también habló hizo referencia a Johanny Palasma. Pero bueno, volviendo a Borges tiene un montón de simbolismos, ¿no? En ficciones, en sus cuentos cortos, tal. Me puse a pensar si usted en su obra tiene como esos patrones de simbolismos y cómo han cambiado a través del tiempo.
I will translate that question. She's very fascinated by the work of Luis Borges and the references that are made. And were there any specific metaphors and concepts that inspire you?
One idea that I have a list of different reasons that why I love Jorge Luis Borges. But one reason is about the concept of time. The philosophical idea of time, the poetic idea of time. He described the different thought about the different thinking about the thought about the time in different texts of Jorge Luis Borges. One of my obsession is to think the time. I have a new series of drawing, very long, 10 years too long, about the time. And one important source to think the time is Jorge Luis Borges. I use different, but I took the idea of Jorge Luis Borges. Jorge Luis Borges is an abstract writer, but I took the abstract idea of Jorge Luis Borges and moved more abstract idea and mixed the Jorge Luis Borges universe with the science, different concept of science that are interesting. I don't use the symbolism of Jorge Luis Borges, special symbolism, no. But I took the idea in very abstract level about the time, about the different concept of Jorge Luis Borges. It's difficult to see the reference in my work close to Jorge Luis Borges. I try to explain. It's difficult to see the reference about Jorge Luis Borges because I took the thought from Jorge Luis Borges.
And then you thought about, especially like, I don't know how to say it, but like, in Jardines Enteros, because you work making lines, maybe,
Yes.
like, crossing lines.
Yes, I love this text. Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay. Thank you all so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much.